Welcome classic rock fans to another one of my 10 of the best. Today we're looking at the 10 bands I would most like to see reform. This video interestingly was inspired by a question I've been asked 2 or 3 times by my subscribers. So I thought I'd do this rather off the cuff impromptu video on this one topic. So with no further ado, out of the 10 bands I could think of, which bands would I most like to see reform? Number 10 is the Eagles. Now I understand that the Eagles are still actually touring, so it's not so much a reformation but a reconfiguration. And that is, I'd love to see Don Felder play once more with them. Interestingly, I read Don Felder's biography and he tells the story of how he was effectively fired from the band because he refused to sign a contract that would relegate him to the status of touring musician with the Eagles, with Henley and Fry. Now I do realise there are 2 sides to every story, but obviously that's what he says. It seems that he was particularly stiffed by them in some respects. Now I do understand, of course, that there are 2 sides to every story, but it seems to me that he took a stand. I think it would have been better for that band perhaps if Walsh and Schmidt had backed him up on that. But anyway, I could be getting the wrong end of the stick. That's my impression reading Don Felder's biography, just his story, of course. But of course, one thing that book does do is it shines a light on the internal workings of that band. Interestingly, especially towards the end of the 70s, when the atmosphere seems to be quite toxic with the competition of egos between Fry and Henley, and this drive for coked up perfection that seems to underpin their last few albums. Anyway, that aside, I'd have to say that I just love Don Felder as a guitar player. I think he was an incredible acquisition for this band. He was brought in, of course, by Bernie Leadon. Bernie Leadon and Felder were friends, even when Leadon was playing in the Flying Burrito Brothers, even before Leadon was playing in the Flying Burrito Brothers. Of course, I saw the Eagles a few years ago. When I saw them, they had the original guitar player, Bernie Leadon, who came on for a few songs. I would have thought with Glenn Fry dying, it was a wonderful opportunity to reach out to somebody like Don Felder, because as more of the original members move on or pass away, the brand, and let's face it, all these bands are just brands now, is effectively diluted, I think. Anyway, so I would have loved to have seen Felder brought back into the mix. I love his guitar sound and his phrasings. He is key to the identity, I feel, of the Hotel California album. And of course they're touring with the Hotel California album. They're playing it in its entirety. What a great opportunity it would have been to reach out to Don Felder. I don't think it will happen. However, I will try and see Don Felder the next time he comes to the UK, if he ever does. Number 9 is Clearwater Credence Revival. I remember first hearing this band, of course, when the film American Werewolf in London came out. And this was the time before the internet. So you're often exposed to music through films and other mediums, certainly not online or YouTube. As far as I understand, the grievance seems to be over ownership of the songs. John Fogerty feels a certain grievance about the rights of those classic Credence tunes being sold to use in adverts and all sorts of things that he wasn't happy about. Then of course you get that wonderful Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction where John Fogerty played some Credence tunes with Springsteen and Robbie Robertson, if I'm not mistaken. But while the other original band members stood by the side of the stage and watched. But if I remember correctly, I feel when you saw those interviews, when they got up to the microphone and speak, you could feel the tension and how they were just so uncomfortable about being together and doing that. And then, of course, the other members of the band go on to form Credence Clearwater Revisited, which further upset John Fogerty. Now, as far as I understand, Fogerty has since opened up communications, not just through their solicitors or lawyers, as they say in the USA, with the other band members, and they are communicating and talking, and the Clearwater Credence Revisited has since been disbanded. So maybe there is hope that there will be a reunion, but I would love to see it. I've seen John Fogerty and he sounds great. I would just love to see him play with those other guys as well. Number 8 is The Jam. Now the Jam, of course, go way back to my childhood. I remember at school people playing The Jam, The Clash, The Police. Of course the Jam, at Weller's behest, transmogrify horribly into the Style Council, excluding the 2 original members, of course. Weller gets to explore his interest in R&B, I guess more soul and stuff like that. There's no doubt that the relations between these band members are frosty, to say the least, although Bruce Foxton has appeared with Weller on stage at the Albert Hall in 2010, I believe. And there has been an embrace, and he was backstage talking to Paul Weller when Weller supported The Who in Hyde Park recently. So there is a thawing and communication between them. Whether this leads to a full-on reunion, though, I very much doubt it. Rick Buckler, of course, has not been in a room with Weller since the band split. Now, Rick Buckler says that Paul Weller doesn't want the Jam to get back together because Paul Weller is worried that it will distract people from his solo career and his solo output. In terms of the Jam, of course, Paul Weller has categorically ruled out any possibility of there being a reunion. I guess Paul Weller feels that he is an artist. He's looking forward and looking ahead and what he wants to do next. He feels that it would be artistically vapid, I guess, to just go on stage and for no other reason than nostalgia, to play with these guys again and play with the Jam. I disagree with him. I think it would be a healing process, and of course it would make a lot of fans like myself very, very happy. Number 7 on my list is a band from the same sort of period as the Jam, that is The Police. I missed them on their last reunion tour. I wish I'd gone to that. But I do hope of there being some sort of reunion with these guys, although Sting has ruled out any further collaborations with Andy Summers and Stuart Copeland. Of course, Sting said in an interview, and I quote, "People reacted to The Police coming back as if mum and dad had got together. You could see the emotion in the audience. But who wants to go and live with a wife you divorced? I won't do it again, but I don't need to. I've done it. It was purely an exercise in nostalgia." However, Stuart Copeland said as recently as 2018 that he believes that a reunion is inevitable. It's not on the immediate radar, but a reunion was inevitable. We'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Number 6 is Grand Funk Railroad. Now there is no touring incarnation of Grand Funk Railroad out at the moment, but it does not include Mark Farner. Mark Farner is that essential ingredient in this band. I've got all their albums from their first album, 69 wasn't it, I believe, to about 76, and I love the power and volume that this band played in the early days, and that bond that they shared. It breaks your heart when you think about the way these bands break up. Now, obviously, there was a reunion, Grand Funk Railroad reunion in '97, and it was there that Mark Farner was tricked or cajoled, if you like, into signing an agreement that made him part of a corporation that was Grand Funk Railroad. What he didn't realise, of course, is that if 2 existing members of that corporation vote you out, you are out. So he now has no legal claim over the band's name anymore. He was tricked into giving up his third, so to speak. I think it's a damn shame. I really do. I've seen Mark Farner play live on certain videos, YouTube I've watched, and he still sounds great. His voice does show, some signs of aging, but he still sounds really, really good. Likewise, the current incarnation of Grand Funk Railroad that go on the road, I mean, they sound wonderful as well. But for me, I would love to see those 3 guys on stage again together. Styx, another reconfiguration. I've seen the current lineup of Styx, and they're really great, don't get me wrong. But I would love to see them rejoin with Dennis D. Young. Now, of course, there was a lot of friction with Dennis D. Young and Tommy Shaw and James Young. They did not like the Mr. Roboto project. They felt that Dennis D. Young was becoming way too Broadway for their tastes. They didn't like the syrupy balladry of songs like Babe and other things. They wanted harder, rockier numbers, I guess. But nevertheless, he was the voice of Styx. He was one of the voices of Styx. His songs and vocal prowess and stage presence are all very much part of that band's identity, the band that I came to love. And Paradise Theatre is one of my favourite albums of all time. It's a wonderful, wonderful concept. I think it's remarkable. So yes, I would love to see these guys bury the hatchet not in each other, but actually get on stage. Get on stage and actually play as Styx once were. Whether it will ever happen, I don't know. These guys aren't getting any younger, and of course, it's every month or so we see another lot we lose. But yes, I would like to see this happen. Styx are a band that I loved during my boyhood. My brother was well into Styx, and I grew to love them as well. I'd love to see Dennis D. Young play with them again. Number 4 is Pink Floyd. I would love to see Pink Floyd reunite with Roger Waters. It was such a shame that there wasn't more of that classic lineup touring after Live Aid, of course. And we can only assume that won't happen. David Gilmour has said there's no way that he's going to get that pop band back together, I think he said. And Roger Waters, if you've read his Rolling Stone interview, he said they couldn't even agree on the details of the remastered, re-released edition of Animals. So difficult were the relations between him and Gilmour. So we'd have to assume, I mean, I got the impression straight after that Rolling Stone interview, Roger Waters was still bristling with frustration. And he said the idea of this band getting back together would be fucking awful, to quote him. So I just don't see that ever happening. I don't think Gilmour wants to do it. They certainly don't need the money, and unless it was had some sort of artistic merit, or they wanted to, it had served some sort of purpose. And for them, I think Gilmour feels that we've done that. It's finished. Richard Wright is gone now, and he doesn't particularly want to work in close collaboration with Roger Waters, and vice versa, I guess. So the Pink Floyd reunion, incredibly unlikely. Number 3 is Genesis, and when I say Genesis, of course, I mean Genesis with Steve Hackett and Peter Gabriel. Of course, it's another one which I'm very dubious about will ever happen. If you remember that wonderful documentary they did, Sum of the Parts, the atmosphere or tension between Tony Banks and Hackett seemed quite palpable, suggesting that there's no love lost between them. Gabriel has always also said that he would probably struggle to sing those songs now. Obviously, as he's gotten older, his vocal range has probably changed, but that doesn't mean they couldn't reconfigure them to make it work. It's just the will has to be there, which I suggest isn't. From the recent announcement of the tour, the last Domino tour, which would have been a wonderful opportunity to reach out to Hackett and Gabriel as one last final hurrah, and they've passed up on that. In fact, I think they've said in an interview that the whole idea of a reunion would just be very strange. They'd be playing material that was lost on a lot of people. They'd be playing material that they're not sure Peter Gabriel can still sing. And they're assuming, of course, that most Genesis fans come from the last 40 or so years, from the Phil Collins-led Genesis incarnation. So I don't know, I don't think it will ever happen personally, but I would love to see Steve Hackett and Peter Gabriel and Tony Banks and Rutherford all on stage together. In the absence of that actually happening, we'll have to content ourselves with Hackett's Genesis Revisited, which are great shows, don't get me wrong. But I can't see that. I can't see those guys on stage anytime soon. And number 2 for me is Led Zeppelin. I would love to see Led Zeppelin play together. Of course, they did that thing at the O2 in 2007. Which was a nightmare trying to get tickets for. Other than that, there was Live Aid, wasn't there, in the USA, and of course the Nebworth Festival in 79. 79 was a long time ago. Now, what are the obstacles towards this, as regards this band getting back together? As far as I know, Plant simply does not want to do it. He feels that looking forward with his solo career and what he wants to do next is far more interesting than bringing, dusting off all those Led Zeppelin tunes and touring with Page and John Paul Jones again. Obviously, the death of John Bonham brought the Led Zeppelin juggernaut to a close, really understandably so. But they have, of course, since played then afterwards. Obviously, Plant feels probably like Paul Weller does about the Jam, that like looking back and playing that stuff is artistically vapid. He's not a jukebox, I think he said. So from my perspective, it seems the Plant is the main obstacle to a Led Zeppelin reunion. Jimmy Page, of course, has this solo album that he's been working on for a long time. Whether that'll ever see the light of day, I don't know. And John Paul Jones has got other stuff to be doing, and he's an incredibly busy guy in his own right. So, but I hold out hope of there actually being some sort of reunion or something. I was hoping maybe for the 50th anniversary of the band there might have been something, but I don't know. I'd like to see it happen though. Number 1 for me is the Kinks. I'd love to see these guys get back together. The flames of hope in terms of a reunion have been fanned by Ray Davies, who has said over the last couple of years a reunion is going to happen. They're working on a new album. He was inspired by the Rolling Stones touring recently and their energy, and he sees there's no reason why we shouldn't do that. So all these sort of sentiments coming from Ray Davies seems to suggest it's on the cards. Him and Dave Davis are actually speaking again and talking. The band are supposed to be working on a new album, but it seems to drag on and on and on, and we don't see any sort of progress. Of course, we thought that there would have been a reunion for the 50th anniversary, but all we got was that compilation album. They have, of course, the band have gotten back together to discuss the finer details of these Kinks reissues, like Arthur and Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation Society. But I wait eagerly for an announcement that there's going to be some Kinks concerts And I'd love to have a look at what the set list would be. That'd be fantastic if they start delving deep into a lot of these concept albums they did. But who knows? We can only hope and pray. But I think a Kinks reunion, as if they actually manage to do it before one of them dies, is possibly going to happen. Anyway, that's the 10 best bands that I'd love to see reform. Please tell me what yours are. Leave your comments downstairs in the box below. It just leaves me to say, please click like, subscribe, check out the Facebook page. I do put loads of stuff on there. If you like my content and my musings on music, do consider supporting my Patreon for extra content and other ways you can support the channel, of course. So it just leaves me to say, keep tuning in, stay safe, but more importantly, please do keep listening.